thank you for that introduction. I am going to be talking about something very personal to me. And I'm going to talk about sort of making a path for yourself. And the reason I'm talking about that is because I think my mother is the personal inspiration that I had for most of what I've done in my life. I just didn't realize it for quite a long time. I really had to think about it. But before I get into my story, I'm going to just ask you guys to do something for me. I'm going to talk to you about some jobs. So first job is builder. So the question is, how many people in the room think it would be impossible for you to become a builder? Can I get a show of hands? Impossible to become a builder. There's a few. Yeah. Any reasons? Like, is it because of age? Is it because of parents? Is it because of Rashid? Yeah. Okay. But we think it's a possible job, right? Okay. Here's another job. Okay. This is the President of the United States. So this one is the leader of your country. How many of you think it would be impossible for you to become the leader of your country? Few more hands. Yeah. For this one. Okay. But it's physically possible, right? Yeah, we agree on that? Physically possible. How about this job? This is my third job. Unicorn tamer. How many people think it's impossible to become a unicorn tamer? Yeah. I'm going to try and change your mind today through sharing the story of my mother. Okay. This is my mother. She's called Karen, so we get that out of the way early. She's a lovely woman. Yeah, you can see her looking nice and relaxed. This is a recent photograph. And yeah, as I said, I was walking, I think the story I want to use is, I was walking through China, Beijing in about 2009, 10. I'd been in China for about 3 or 4 years at a time. And I had a moment where I went, oh, I live in China. What's going on? Right? And I thought, how did a little boy from near Liverpool, a little town, not particularly, big, strong, fast, or any of those things, decide to move halfway across the world and do something that I really did want to do. And it boils down to my mother. She gave me a lot of direction, a lot of support, and it was just by watching her. So I want to share the story of her life with you guys so you can see what I learned, and then hopefully by the end you'll feel like you can become a unicorn tamer if you want to. Okay, so this is the beginning of her story. There's one person in the room that might recognize this photograph, but this is Liverpool in 1960. So you can see it's a not so affluent area, very working class, this part. There's a lot of factories in the background. And for my mother, she was very working class. She was dyslexic and female, 3 really important things. When she went to school, she wasn't expected to do anything really at school. It was a holding place until she was 16. And then afterwards, she was expected to have a family, yeah, stay at home, not do too much else. Maybe she could work in the factory if she was ambitious enough to do that. But this is where she was. The dyslexia was a really particularly hard thing for her at the time in the UK. It wasn't really recognized. So at school, it became a really big deal. She was just thought of, and she thought of herself as someone who just couldn't learn very well, couldn't write, couldn't read, do those things. So yeah, that's where she started. So she qualified. She finished school. No qualifications, not even her sort of O levels at the time, which are the basic 16-year-old sort of leaving school qualifications. She was working full time. She had 2 children. I was one of them. And she was a single parent at that time, at 20 years old. So it's quite a big situation to deal with, I think. But no problem, right? Because she wasn't expected to do much else, right? No problem. She started to feel like there was a problem with that she wanted more for herself, that she wanted more for her family. But she faced this huge mountain in her life. And this is where I think I start to get most of my inspiration from, like where she came from and where she went to. So I want to show you what she did, and just by watching her, how I learned from that. So, next one. This is my mother graduating. Actually, this was when she graduated with her master's degree. So she went from that situation to when she was 42, I think, graduating with a master's. She did it in a really regimented way. It wasn't sort of like just anything and it just came about. So first of all, she realized she wanted to do something. She went and did some research. She tried some things, and she looked at the obstacles that she faced in her life. The first one, obviously, was no qualifications. How do I deal with that? And she went away and she found a path to university through the City and Guilds program. Then she looked at her dyslexia as another huge challenge for her. And she said, well, what do I do about that? So she went away, talked to the university, and then she said, what can I do about it? They said, oh, we have lots of support. We've got technology, we've got programs. She got all of that support just by asking for it and going for it. Then she worked really, really hard for about 5 years. She had the support, I think, from the family, but it was really a very big personal drive from her. She was still working 2 jobs, I think, while she was doing all of that. So again, really, really inspirational for me to see how she laid it out, how she achieved something. And for someone from her position, I would argue that getting a master's degree and becoming a social worker, which she wanted to do for a long time, is a bit like becoming a unicorn tamer. In the world she came from, that was an impossibility, and especially for her situation. So that's her story. What I think I learned, first 2 very simple things. Society kind of expects a lot from us. So we might not always think about that or always realize that, but we're surrounded by expectations from our culture, from our family, from our friends, and those all become something like in our head as a personal belief. And that's where the real sort of constraint and limitation comes into our life. And I learned that from my mother really early, and I'm so lucky to have done that because I realized that if you do have these things, if you have self-belief, real drive, and proper goals. I'll stop for a second. How many of you know what you want to do in the next 10 years really clearly? Yes, some people. It's not actually that common, right? You don't need an end goal. All you need to do is keep working towards the things, I think, that you feel good about, feel right about, and have a sense of where you want to go. And then the goals can happen as well. Okay, so that's my mother's story and how it affected me. And I wondered when I was putting the talk together how to make this a little bit more wide, a little bit more sort of applicable to everybody. And the thing that stood out was in 2017, I did a master's degree where I was talking in my dissertation to 7 kids from China, sorry, 7 people, I should say. Some of them were kids, some of them were adults. So from about 18 all the way through up to 30s. And I was really interested in how they came to be like a baby in China all the way to studying in the UK for the thing that they wanted to do. And there's a lot of things they talked about, but the 3 guys and the 4 girls had one thing that was completely different. All 4 girls talked about it, and all 3 guys did not talk about it. They all said, by the time I'm 25, I'm expected to have a family, get married, have a baby, and do those things. That really struck home with me. I thought, okay, so if these 7 people, and especially these 4 women from China, have such a similar overlap with my mother, maybe it's something that we all face, right? And what was really impressive about those 4 women was that they all were doing it for their own reasons. So the 18-year-old had come all the way to Manchester because she wanted a family, but she also wanted a career, and she wanted to study in the UK. The other 3, they just wanted to go away and build their own life outside of those expectations. So yeah, I think these guys are really impressive. So I want you to think, maybe as we go forward, about yourself. What kind of beliefs have you got in your own head that are constraining you? What other things do you have to overcome in your life to reach your goals? And it really doesn't matter if you're sort of in the room and you're 10, or if you're in your 60s, 70s, it doesn't matter. Everybody has something they want to achieve, I think. So really think about those things. And then be self-aware. Analyze yourself. Think about your situation. Be tenacious and confident. Really believe that you can do what you want to do. And then take baby steps. So that's, nothing is achieved all in one go, right? So take baby steps so you can keep that thing moving, and also be ready to seize opportunities when they come. So these are also things, I think, that I can take. And my mother would probably say to you guys, so go tame thy unicorn, which is hopefully the thing that you want to achieve in your life, okay? Okay, so yeah, thank you guys. That's the end of my talk. Yeah.